I was at the dollar store recently and saw this little wind-up bath toy, and it inspired me to try to make my own boat. So let's open it up and get started, shall we? It comes with this cute little wind-up engine, which is cool, but we don't really need it, so I'm going to take it apart and set that aside for maybe a future project. All we need right now is this little green base. I take it and press it against some XPS foam, and I'm going to use this foam to fill the negative space inside. But first, I cut off the end bits. Again, I don't really need those. Carve the foam down to shape, and then once it fits generally inside the hole, I'm going to glue it in place using a mix of Mod Podge and some foam safe super glue. Once the glue dries, I can start sanding up the outside so that the glue sticks better, and then I can trim off any extra foam. I start building out the base of the ship with some foam and some wood. These wooden parts that I'm gluing down are the keel and the stem. Since I did one side as a practice, I know that I need to shave some of the original boat away in order to make the sides fit. And these are just coffee stir sticks, and I glue them down using super glue and baking soda as an accelerant and also a gap filler. Now, I gotta say, this process was really hard. This was the hardest part of the entire process. As you can see, my fingers are coated in super glue and powder. The first few planks were especially hard because they had a very strong twist in them, especially up in the front, and that was always difficult. So a lot of super glue and a lot of filler. Eventually, I did find that starting from the back and moving front did make things a bit easier, so the rest of the process went a bit more smooth than the original side. After cleaning up the extra super glue and baking soda, I can start working on the deck. Now, this was much easier because these were all flat, and I am using foam safe super glue to glue these down. Normal super glue or cyanoacrylate will eat away at this kind of foam, so you do have to use a special foam safe super glue. The deck went by really quick, and I think it turned out pretty good. Adding the back was also super simple because it was flat, and then I just trim it up with my flush cut snippers. I add another stem to the front because I thought it looked cool, and then I add some capping around the top to also make it look cool. Then I drill a hole in the middle, and this is for a mast. I'm going to be using this chipboard to build the pilot house out, and I score it so that I can bend it into the shape that I want. The type of boat or ship that I'm building here is called a trawler, and I'm switching out boat and ship quite a lot during this video. For this, it doesn't really matter. It's a little toy model that I'm building, but in real life, boats versus ships, it depends on like the size and what they're built to do and classifications, all that kind of stuff. Doesn't matter for this video. Anyways, this is a trawler. They're used for fishing, usually dragging large nets or large fishing lines, or crab fishing as well. I've always loved how trawlers look, so that's what I'm building today. I'm using my Dremel tool here to cut out the windows on the pilot house. I probably could have done it with a knife, but it was just easier to use the Dremel cutoff tool. I sanded it up, cleaned it up a nice bit, and then I add a bit of support inside. This is to support the walls, but then it also is a good place for the lights to go later. This is just a random piece of plastic that I got off some container. I'm going to scuff it up, cut it up, bend it into shape, and then that will be my window. And it's nice that it's frosted because then the light coming through later will be diffused. These are just pieces of styrene that I'm using as the frame and to add a bit of detail to the pilot house. The sides of the walls were a bit boring looking, so I added these googly eyes. I don't know what their purpose is. This is kind of a storage locker, like a fish locker, and this is actually the bowsprit off of the space pirate ship I built a while back. I picked up these cheap little tea lights from the dollar store with the boat, and I was going to use them to light up the inside of my pilot house. And I was going to take the switch out and do some rewiring. And then when I actually took it apart, I realized that the switch isn't actually a switch. It's just a piece of plastic that moves the LED into contacting with the batteries. So my original plan wasn't going to work, but what I ended up doing was taking apart two of them, and then I will wire them together and use the switch from this little button cell battery holder, kind of extend it out so it's easier to work with, and then shove all the electronics inside and call it good. And the reason why I'm using the LEDs from the tea lights and not the other LEDs that I've used in other videos, it's because the ones in the tea lights, they are pre-programmed to flicker, and I thought that was kind of cool. And I'm hiding the switch in the roof. I'm just going to glue it in place, and then I'll glue a couple of blocks next to it just to make sure it doesn't come undone. I am gluing everything in place permanently, including the roof, so I will never be able to change these batteries, but I think that's okay. I don't really plan on keeping this on for very long, just to show it off, and again at the end you'll see it glowing. I add a few more greeblies to the top, including these little tiny non-working spotlights that I built out of some greeblies and stuff that I had. I wanted to add a couple tire fenders, and so I'm using these little washers here. These are from a TV mounting kit, and with a bit of string and super glue, I will add them to the side. And now that the overall build is basically done, I can start working on making this an old, crusty, dusty, falling apart ghost ship. And I start by adding barnacles. These are called seed beads, and they're little tiny glass beads that I'm gluing in place with super glue. And the tool I'm using here is a wax tip rhinestone pen. And I know these barnacles are a bit large for the overall size of this boat, but the whole thing is kind of a cartoony style anyways, so I don't really mind. Now, in order to add some more grime to the ship, I'm mixing up a paste of modeling paste and Mod Podge, and I'm going to stipple it over the entire model. This will just add a lot of really good texture and break up any flat edges or sides. Once that dries, I can add a couple holes in the bottom and then add some pins, and this will make it easier to paint. Speaking of paint, I put it on some painting clips, send it outside, and give it a coat of flat black primer. I also dust the entire thing with some white spray paint as well. This adds some highlights and shadows, but mostly I just do it so that it's easier to see on camera. And now we can get on to the actual painting. I start with a light coat of tan for all the wood pieces. And when that first layer is dry, I add on a coat of brown contrast or wash paint, and this brings out a lot of the details. Then I go in with a dry brush and a much darker brown, and I add some more grime and texture. One of my favorite things about weathering is that it covers up all of your crimes and mistakes. So most of the projects I build are very dirty and messed up because, like I said, you can cover up a lot of your mistakes and things that you're not as happy with grime and dust. It's easy. I'm allowing my paint job to be pretty sloppy and missing a lot of parts because it's just free weathering at the end of the day. And this is a ghost ship. It's been floating around in the ocean for years and years, so of course some of the paint's going to chip off. So if you're not as confident in your painting, just build something that you know is going to be all grimy and beaten up, because then you don't have to worry about your paint job at all. I paint the entire pilot house with a silver, I think it's a gunmetal to be exact. And you'll really only see this a little bit, but I decided just to coat the entire thing first, just to give an even base layer to work off of. The rest of the painting is pretty self-explanatory, so I'm going to leave you with some jazz and painting, but if you do have any questions, just put them down below. Hey, I'm back. This is one of my favorite parts. This is the washing and weathering phase. This is a mix of brown and gray and green paint mixed with water. I actually used this on my swamp monster build, and I just cover the entire model, and then I'll take a paper towel and dab away some of the excess. For the rust effects, I'm using an orange rust colored paint and dragging the paintbrush down so it looks like it's dripping rust down the side of the ship. And I start with a lighter orange rust color, and this will darken a bit as it dries, but I start with that lighter orange, and then I'll go in with a rust color that has a bit more brown mixed into it, like you can see here, and I start adding some color variations. I'm adding a bit of weathering to the windows here using some of that same rusty colored, and then I dab it away with a paper towel. Lastly, I add some of the rigging lines using some thread, and of course this rigging is not accurate at all, but neither is this ship, so don't worry about it. Anyways, that's about it. So enjoy the beauty shots, and I'll talk to you after. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. Now's the time that I have to give my classic YouTube shtick. So here it goes. If you like this video, consider dropping a like, consider subscribing. I've got plenty more videos like this on my channel. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, put them down in the comment section and I'll try to get back to you. I'll leave links in the description to all the tools and materials that I used during my builds. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.